Hello students, in this lecture we will discuss the basic concepts of engineering thermodynamics. These are few of the good books recommended for you. Thermodynamics can be defined as the science of energy. Although everybody has a feeling of what energy is, it is difficult to give a precise definition for it. Energy can be viewed as the ability to cause changes. The name thermodynamics stems from the Greek words thermi, that is heat, and dynamics, that is power, which is most descriptive of the early efforts to convert heat into power. Today, the same name is broadly interpreted to include all aspects of energy and energy transformations, including power generation, refrigeration, and relationship among the properties of matter. One of the most fundamental laws of the nature is the conservation of energy principle. It simply states that during an interaction, energy can change from one form to another, but the total amount of energy remains constant. That is, energy cannot be created or destroyed. A rock falling from a mountain, for example, picks up speed as a result of its potential energy being converted to kinetic energy. The first law of thermodynamics is simply an expression of the conservation of energy principle, and it emphasizes that energy is a thermodynamic property. The second law of thermodynamics emphasizes that energy has quality as well as quantity, and actual processes occur in the direction of decreasing quality of energy. For example, a cup of hot coffee left on a table eventually cools, but a cup of cool coffee in the same room never gets hot by itself. The high temperature energy of the coffee is degraded, that is, transformed into a less useful form at a lower temperature once it is transferred to the surrounding air. Thermodynamics is commonly encountered in many engineering systems and other aspects of life. Many ordinary household utensils and applications are designed in whole or in part by using the principles of thermodynamics. Some examples include the electric or gas range, the heating and air conditioning systems, the refrigerator, the humidifier, the pressure cooker, the water heater, the shower, the iron, and even the computer and TV. On a large scale, thermodynamics plays a major part in the design and analysis of automotive engines, rockets, jet engines, and conventional or nuclear power plants, solar collectors, and the design of vehicles from ordinary cars to airplanes. The energy efficient home that you may be living in, for example, is designed on the basis of minimizing heat loss in winter and heat gain in summer. The size, location, and the power input of the fan of your computer is also selected after an analysis that involves thermodynamics. Thermodynamic system can be defined in best way as a device or combination of devices containing a quantity of matter, that is, working substance, to be studied or investigated. The boundary of a system can be fixed or movable. So one thing is clear from the definition, that we should need two things for the definition of thermodynamic system. Means any system can be defined as thermodynamic system if it fulfills two conditions. That is, first is either it should have a device or a combination of devices. Second, there should be a working substance whose properties are to be investigated, that what change is undergone in the properties of this working substance, that is basically to be studied in thermodynamics. So examples are power plant operating on Rankine cycle and the refrigeration system operating on vapor compression cycle. So in the case of Rankine cycle, we are having combination of four devices, that is boiler, turbine, condenser, and pump. In the case of refrigeration system, again we are having combination of devices, means the devices are evaporator, compressor, condenser, and expansion. So steam power plant that is operating on Rankine cycle is one of the best examples of thermodynamic system. We are having combination of four devices, that is boiler, turbine, condenser and pump, and moreover we are having the working substance that is nothing but water, H2O. It may be liquid water, it may be water vapor, that is steam, or it may be the combination of two. So water enters the pump as saturated liquid and is compressed isentropically to the operating pressure of the boiler. The water temperature increases somewhat during this isentropic compression process due to slight decrease in specific volume of water. Water enters the boiler as a compressed liquid and leaves as superheated vapor. The boiler is basically a large heat exchanger where the heat originating from combustion gases, nuclear reactors or other sources is transferred to the water essentially at constant pressure. The boiler together with the section where the steam is superheated, that is superheater, is often called the steam generator. Superheated vapor enters the turbine where it expands isentropically and it produces work by rotating the shaft connected to an electric generator. The pressure and the temperature of the steam decreases during this process to the value where steam enters the condenser. At this state, steam is usually a saturated liquid vapor mixture with a high quality. Steam is condensed at constant pressure in the condenser, which is basically a large heat exchanger by rejecting heat to a cooling media such as a lake, river or the atmosphere. Steam leaves the condenser as saturated liquid and enters the pump, completing the cycle. In areas where water is precious, the power plants are cooled by air instead of water. The another example of thermodynamic system is refrigeration system operating on vapor compression cycle. The vapor compression refrigeration cycle is the most widely used cycle for refrigerators, air conditioning systems and heat pumps. It consists of four processes: isentropic compression in a compressor, constant pressure heat rejection in a condenser, throttling in an expansion device, constant pressure heat absorption in an evaporator. So in an ideal vapor compression refrigeration cycle, the refrigerant enters the compressor as saturated vapor and is compressed isentropically to the condenser pressure. The temperature of the refrigerant increases during the isentropic compression process to well above the temperature of the surrounding medium. Here you can see that before the compression the pressure was 120 kilopascal whereas temperature was minus 20 degrees Celsius, and after the compression the pressure reaches 800 kilopascal whereas the temperature goes up to 60 degrees Celsius. The refrigerant then enters the condenser as superheated vapor and leaves as saturated liquid as a result of heat rejection to the surroundings. The temperature of the refrigerant at this state is still above the temperature of the surroundings. The saturated liquid at this state is throttled to the evaporator pressure by passing it through an expansion valve or capillary tube. The temperature of the refrigerant drops below the temperature of the refrigerated spaces during this process. The refrigerant enters the evaporator as a low quality saturated mixture and it completely evaporates by absorbing heat from the refrigerated space. The refrigerant leaves the evaporator as saturated vapor and re-enters the compressor, completing the cycle. In the household refrigerator, one might have seen the tubes of the freezer compartment where heat is absorbed by the refrigerant, serving as the evaporator. The coil behind the refrigerator, where heat is dissipated to the kitchen air, serves as the condenser. Systems may be considered to be closed or open, depending on whether a fixed mass or fixed volume in space is chosen for study. A closed system, which is also known as control mass, consists of a fixed amount of mass and no mass can cross its boundary. That is, no mass can enter or leave a closed system, but energy in the form of heat or work can cross the boundary, and the volume of a closed system does not have to be fixed. If, as a special case, even energy is not allowed to cross the boundary, that system is called an isolated system. So the power plant operating on Rankine cycle and refrigeration system operating on vapor compression cycle are the examples of closed system. An open system, or a control volume as it is often called, is a properly selected region in space. It usually encloses a device that involves mass flow such as compressor, turbine or nozzle. Flow through these devices is best studied by selecting the region within the device as the control volume. Both mass and energy can cross the boundary of control volume. A large number of engineering problems involve mass flow in and out of a system and therefore are modeled as control volumes. A water heater, a car radiator, a turbine, and a compressor all involve mass flow and should be analyzed as control volumes, that is open systems, instead of control masses, that is closed systems. In general, any arbitrary region in space can be selected as a control volume. There are no concrete rules for the selection of control volumes, but the proper choice certainly makes the analysis much easier. If we were to analyze the flow of air through a nozzle, for example, a good choice for the control volume would be the region within the nozzle. The boundaries of a control volume are called a control surface, and they can be real or imaginary. In the case of a nozzle, the inner surface of the nozzle forms the real part of the boundary, and the entrance and exit areas form the imaginary part, since there are no physical surfaces there, as shown in the figure. A control volume can be fixed in size and shape, as in the case of nozzle, or it may involve a moving boundary, as shown in the figure. Most control volumes, however, have fixed boundaries and thus do not involve any moving boundaries. A control volume can also involve heat and work interactions, just as in the case of closed system, in addition to the mass interaction. Any characteristic of a system is called a property. The most common examples include pressure, temperature, volume, mass, viscosity, thermal conductivity, electrical resistivity, thermal expansion coefficient, elasticity, velocity, elevation. Properties are considered to be either extensive or intensive. Intensive properties are those that are independent of the mass of a system, such as temperature, pressure, density. Extensive properties are those whose value depend on the size or extent of the system. Total mass, total volume, total momentum are some examples of the extensive properties. An easy way to determine whether a property is intensive or extensive is to divide the system into two equal parts with an imaginary partition. Each part will have the same value of intensive properties as the original system, whereas in the case of extensive properties, the values will become half. Generally, uppercase letters, that is capital letters, are used to denote extensive properties. Exception is the mass, because mass is denoted by small m. Whereas lower case letters, that is small letters, are used to denote intensive properties. And here the exceptions are pressure P and temperature T, which are denoted with uppercase letters. Extensive properties per unit mass are called specific properties. Some examples of specific properties are specific volume and specific total energy. So these specific volume and specific total energy have now become intensive properties. Similar is case with the enthalpy and entropy, which are denoted by H and S, which are extensive properties. But when they are divided by mass, they become specific enthalpy and specific entropy, denoted by small h and small s respectively. Consider a system that is not undergoing any change. At this point, all the properties can be measured or calculated throughout the entire system, which can give us a set of properties that completely describes the condition or state of the system. At a given state, all the properties of a system have fixed values. If the value of even one property changes, the state will change to a different one. Thermodynamics deals with equilibrium states. The word equilibrium implies a state of balance. In an equilibrium state, there are no unbalanced potentials. Means there are no unbalanced driving forces within the system. A system in equilibrium experiences no changes when it is isolated from the surroundings. There are many types of equilibrium, and a system is not in thermodynamic equilibrium unless the conditions of all the relevant types of equilibrium are satisfied. A system is in thermal equilibrium if the temperature is the same throughout the entire system. That is, the system involves no temperature differential, which is the driving force for the heat flow. Mechanical equilibrium is related to pressure, and a system is in mechanical equilibrium if there is no change in pressure at any point of the system with time. However, the pressure may vary within the system with elevation as a result of gravitational effects. For example, the higher pressure at a bottom layer is balanced by the extra weight it must carry, and therefore there is no imbalance of forces. The variation of pressure as a result of gravity in most thermodynamic systems is relatively small and usually disregarded. If a system involves two phases, it is in phase equilibrium, when the mass of each phase reaches an equilibrium level and stays there. Finally, a system is in chemical equilibrium if its chemical composition does not change with time, that is, no chemical reaction occur. A system will not be in equilibrium unless all the relevant equilibrium criteria are satisfied. The state of a system is described by its properties, but we don't need to specify all the properties in order to fix a state. Once a sufficient number of properties are specified, the rest of the properties assume certain values automatically. That is, specifying a certain number of properties is sufficient to fix a state. The number of properties required to fix the state of a system is given by the state postulate, and it says that the state of simple compressible system is completely specified by two independent intensive properties. So definitely our working substances, be it air, be it water vapor, or be it another gases, that will come in the category of compressible system. And as in the coordinate geometry, we need two coordinates to specify a point. Similarly, in the case of thermodynamics, if we want to fix up the state of any substance, we require two independent intensive properties. Two properties are independent if one property can be varied while the other one is held constant. Temperature and specific volume, for example, are always independent properties, and together they can fix the state of a simple compressible system. Temperature and pressure, however, are independent properties for single phase systems, but they are dependent properties for multi-phase system. Means when we are having mixture of saturated liquid and saturated vapor inside the vapor dome, then temperature and pressure are dependent properties. I'll explain you this thing with the help of diagram in subsequent slides. Any change that a system undergoes from one equilibrium state to another is called a process, and the series of states through which a system passes during a process is called the path of the process. To describe a process completely, one should specify the initial and final states of the process, as well as the path it follows and the interactions with the surroundings. When a process proceeds in such a manner that the system remains infinitesimally close to an equilibrium state at all times, it is called a quasi-static or quasi-equilibrium process. A quasi-equilibrium process can be viewed as a sufficiently slow process that allows the system to adjust itself internally so that the properties in one part of the system do not change any faster than those at other parts. The word quasi means something which appears to be, but it is not actually. It is synonym of the word pseudo. So quasi-equilibrium or quasi-static process means the process which is so slow that it appears that there is no movement of the piston as such if we are having piston cylinder arrangement, or it is very slow movement. The steady flow process and uniform flow process. As the word steady means that something that is not changing with respect to time. Okay, so a steady flow process means the flow in which the properties of the substance do not change with respect to time. That sort of flow is known as steady flow. The opposite of steady is unsteady. Means when the parameters in a flow are changing with the time, then such process is known as unsteady or transient process. The term uniform implies that there is no location over a specified region. Means if you choose a location or a space, then at all points in that particular space, any parameter is assuming similar values, same values across the entire space or region that you have selected. So uniform flow means a flow in which the properties of fluid or substance do not change with location. Temperature is a measure of hotness or coldness. It's not easy to give an exact definition for it. Based on our physiological sensation, we express the level of temperature qualitatively with the words like cold, warm, hot, red hot. However, we cannot assign numerical values to temperature based on our sensation alone. Furthermore, our senses may be misleading. A metal chair, for example, will feel much colder than a wooden one even when both are at same temperature. It is a common experience that a cup of hot coffee left on the table eventually cools off and a cold drink eventually warms up. That is, when a body is brought into a contact with another body that is at different temperature, heat is transferred from the body at a high temperature to the one at lower temperature until both bodies attain the same temperature. At that point, the heat transfer stops and the two bodies are said to have reached thermal equilibrium. The equality of temperature is the only requirement for thermal equilibrium. The zeroth law of thermodynamics states that if two bodies are in thermal equilibrium with a third body, they are also in thermal equilibrium with each other. A substance that has fixed chemical composition throughout is called a pure substance. The examples are water, nitrogen, helium, carbon dioxide. They all are pure substance. A pure substance does not have to be of single chemical element or compound, however. A mixture of various chemical elements or compounds also qualifies as a pure substance as long as the mixture is homogeneous. Air, for example, is a mixture of several gases, but it is often considered to be a pure substance because it has a uniform chemical composition. However, a mixture of oil and water is not a pure substance. Since oil is not soluble in water, it will collect on the top of water, forming two chemically dissimilar regions. A mixture of two or more phases of a pure substance is still a pure substance as long as the chemical composition of all phases is the same. A mixture of ice and liquid water, for example, is a pure substance because both phases have the same chemical composition, H2O. A mixture of liquid air and gaseous air, however, is not a pure substance since the composition of liquid air is different from the composition of gaseous air, and thus the mixture is no longer chemically homogeneous. This is due to different components in air condensing at different temperatures at a specified pressure. As we know that substances exist in different phases. At room temperature and pressure, copper is a solid, mercury is a liquid, and nitrogen is gas. Under different conditions, each may appear in different phase, even though there are three principal phases: solid, liquid, and gas. A substance may have several phases within a principal phase, each with a different molecular structure. Carbon may exist as graphite or diamond in the solid phase. Helium has two liquid phases. Iron has three solid phases. Ice may exist at 7 different phases at high pressures. A phase is identified as having a distinct molecular arrangement that is homogeneous throughout and separated from the others by easily identifiable boundary surfaces. The two phases of H2O in iced water represents a good example of this. If one is studying phases or phase changes in thermodynamics, he or she should be concerned with the molecular structure and behavior of different phases. Intermolecular bonds are strongest in solids and weakest in gases. The reason is that molecules in solid are closely packed together, whereas in gases they are separated by relatively large distances. The molecules in solid are arranged in a three-dimensional pattern that is repeated throughout. Because of the small distances between molecules in a solid, the attractive forces of molecules on each other are large and keep the molecules at fixed positions. The attractive forces between molecules turn to repulsive forces as the distance between the molecules approaches zero, thus preventing the molecules from piling up on the top of each other. Even though the molecules in solid cannot move relative to each other, they continually oscillate about their equilibrium positions. The velocity of the molecules during these oscillations depend on the temperature. When the temperatures are sufficiently high, the velocity and subsequently the momentum of the molecules may reach a point where the intermolecular forces are partially overcome and groups of molecules break away. This is the beginning of the melting process. The molecular spacing in the liquid phase is not much different from that of solid phase, except the molecules are no longer at fixed positions relative to each other and they can rotate and translate freely. In a liquid, intermolecular forces are weaker relative to solids, but still relatively strong compared with gases. The distances between the molecules generally experience a slight increase as the solid turn liquid, with water being a notable exception. In the gas phase, the molecules are far apart from each other and a molecular order is non-existent. Gas molecules move about at random, continually colliding with each other and the walls of container they are in. Particularly at low densities, the intermolecular forces are very small and collisions are the only mode of interaction between the molecules. Molecules in the gas phase are at considerably higher energy level than they are in liquid or solid phases. Therefore, the gas must release a large amount of its energy before it can condense or freeze. So now we are discussing the phase change processes of pure substances. Many practical situations are evident when two phases of a pure substance coexist in equilibrium. Water exists as a mixture of liquid and vapor in the boiler and condenser of a steam power plant. The refrigerant turns from liquid to vapor in the freezer of a refrigerator. Now we have taken water as a pure substance to exhibit the general behavior of any pure substance when it is being heated at constant pressure. So we consider a piston cylinder device that is containing liquid water at 20 degrees Celsius and 1 atmospheric pressure. Okay, that has been shown on this TV diagram by the point 1. Now under these conditions, water exists in liquid phase, and it is called a compressed liquid or a subcooled liquid, which means that it is not about to vaporize. Now we are transferring heat to the water until its temperature rises, say 40 degrees Celsius. As the temperature rises, the liquid water expands slightly, and so its specific volume increases. So that is getting evident as we are moving higher from the point 1, specific volume, which is shown by x-axis, that is going to rise. Okay. Water is still a compressed liquid at this state since it has not started to vaporize. Means the point of 40 degrees Celsius is somewhere between points 1 and 2. So definitely it has not started to vaporize. As more heat is transferred, the temperature keeps rising until it reaches 100 degrees Celsius. At this point, water is still a liquid, but any heat addition will cause some of the liquid to vaporize. Okay, so this is basically a saturation state, the point 2. The state 2 where the temperature has reached 100 degrees Celsius at 1 atmospheric pressure. So this is saturation state. The state is saturated liquid, but it's still a liquid. But if you add even a small amount of heat, it will cause certain amount of liquid to vaporize at this point. That is, phase change process from liquid to vapor is about to take place. A liquid that is about to vaporize is called a saturated liquid. So the state 2 is indicating saturated liquid state. Okay. Once boiling starts, the temperature stops rising until the liquid is completely vaporized. That is, the temperature will remain constant during the entire phase change process if the pressure is held constant. Okay, so from point 2 to point 4, pressure is constant as well as temperature is constant. So from point 2 to point 4, pressure and temperature are dependent properties. If you are saying pressure is, say, 1 atmospheric pressure, what we have assumed, okay, it means from point 2 to point 4, temperature is 100 degrees Celsius and nothing else. So from point 2 to point 4, infinite points must be lying. 3 is one of them. Okay, but from point 2 to point 4, pressure is 1 atmospheric pressure and the temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. Point 2 पर भी प्रेशर 1 एटमॉस्फेरिक प्रेशर है, पॉइंट 3 पर भी, पॉइंट 4 पर भी. सिमिलरली पॉइंट 2 पर भी टेम्परेचर 100 डिग्री सेल्सियस है, टेम्परेचर 100 डिग्री सेल्सियस है पॉइंट 3 पर भी और 4 पर भी. तो इसका मतलब प्रेशर और टेम्परेचर मिलकर इन तीनों पॉइंट्स के बीच में डिस्टिंक्शन नहीं बना सकते हैं, डिस्टिंग्विश नहीं कर सकते हैं. इसका मतलब हमें कुछ और प्रॉपर्टी रिक्वायर्ड होगी इनको डिस्टिंग्विश करने के लिए, क्योंकि स्टेट तो अलग अलग है. स्टेट इज क्वाइट डिफरेंट एट पॉइंट 2, 3 and 4, but even then pressure and temperature are not able to distinguish between these 3 points. It means they are dependent properties, they are not independent properties. And I told you that we require 2 independent properties for a compressible substance to fix up the state. During a boiling process, the only change we observe is the large increase in the volume. As is evident from point 1 to 2, the change in specific volume is quite low. But from point 2 to 4, enormous increase in specific volume is evident from the diagram, TV diagram. Midway about vaporization line, the cylinder contains equal amount of liquid and vapor. Okay, so at point 3 is containing equal amount of saturated liquid and equal amount of saturated vapor. As we continue transferring heat, the vaporization process continues until the last drop of liquid is vaporized. At this point, the entire cylinder is filled with the vapor that is on the borderline of the liquid phase. Okay, so it means that at state 4, the condition or the state of the substance is saturated vapor. If you take out any heat from this, then definitely this substance will condense. And if you give some heat, whether in small amount, that substance is going to superheat. Okay, so the condition or the state at 4 is saturated vapor state. A substance at states between 2 and 4 is referred as saturated liquid vapor mixture, since the liquid and vapor phases coexist in equilibrium at these states. Once the phase change process is completed, we are back to single phase region again. Okay, so from point 2 to point 4, what we are having? A mixture zone, in which we are having the mixture of saturated liquid as well as saturated vapor. But once we go beyond point 4, that is point 5 or further, then it is again single phase region. Okay, and further transfer of heat results in increase in both temperature and specific volume. And if we are going to supply heat at point 4 and further, then definitely temperature is increasing as well as specific volume is increasing. So beyond point 4, ahead of point 4, pressure and temperature are independent properties. At state 5, the temperature of the vapor is, let us say, 300 degrees Celsius. Pressure is 1 atmospheric pressure. Pressure is constant from point 1 to point 5. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Entire curve is having the pressure of 1 atmospheric pressure, because what we are doing, we are showing you heating process of water at constant pressure. So at point 5, pressure is 1 atmospheric pressure and temperature is 300 degrees Celsius. And if we transfer some heat from the vapor, the temperature may drop somewhat, but no condensation will take place as long as the temperature remains above 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, means if we are going to take out some heat from point 5, cooling will take place, means its temperature will drop, but condensation will not take place. Condensation will take place only when the vapor reaches point 4. And at this point 4, if you again heat, then definitely it will go towards left, means towards point 3, and condensation will start. Okay, a vapor that is not about to condense, that is not a saturated vapor, is called a superheated vapor. Therefore water at state 5 is superheated vapor. Okay, so definitely superheated vapor means what? If at any pressure, if vapor is having temperature higher than its saturation temperature, it is superheated vapor. For example, I say at 1 atmospheric pressure, the saturation temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so if at 1 atmospheric pressure any temperature greater than 100 degrees Celsius for that particular substance will indicate that it is superheated. As you all know that water starts to boil at 100 degrees Celsius. But if we say water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, is incorrect. What is correct? Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at 1 atmospheric pressure. Means you have to specify pressure, because as the pressure varies or as the pressure changes, definitely boiling temperature is also changing. Means boiling temperature of water will change. Okay. If the pressure inside the cylinder were raised to 500 kilopascal by adding weights on the top of the piston, the water would start boiling at 151.8 degrees Celsius. So boiling point, or you can say saturation temperature of water, will depend upon pressure. And not only water, for any substance, for any pure substance, things will be like that only. That is, the temperature at which water starts boiling depends on the pressure. Therefore, if the pressure is fixed, so is the boiling temperature. At a given pressure, the temperature at which pure substance changes phase is called the saturation temperature. Okay. For example, in the case of water, if the pressure is 1 atmospheric pressure and we say 100 degrees Celsius, then it means that is its saturation temperature. Okay. Likewise, at a given temperature, the pressure at which pure substance changes phase is called saturation pressure. So, for if I say 100 degrees Celsius, it means the pressure at which substance is going to change phase is known as saturation pressure, and that will be nothing but 1 atmospheric pressure. So they are having 1-to-1 relation. Means saturation pressure is having 1-to-1 relation with saturation temperature. 1 atmospheric pressure, the temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. Temperature is 100 degrees Celsius, saturation pressure is 1 atmospheric pressure. As you all know that large amount of energy is required to melt a solid or to vaporize a liquid. The amount of energy absorbed or released during a phase change process is called the latent heat. More specifically, the amount of energy absorbed during melting is called the latent heat of fusion, and is equivalent to the amount of energy released during freezing. Similarly, the amount of energy absorbed during vaporization is called the latent heat of vaporization and is equivalent to energy released during condensation. At 1 atmospheric pressure, the latent heat of fusion of water is 333.7 kilojoule per kg, and the latent heat of vaporization is 2256.5 kilojoule per kg. During a phase change process, pressure and temperature are obviously dependent properties, as I have told you, and there is definite relation between them, that is 1-to-1 relation, as I told you. So we can say saturation temperature is function of saturation pressure, and you can see in the graph shown for saturation temperature and saturation pressure, which is known as liquid vapor saturation curve, and this curve is a characteristic curve for all the pure substances. Means for all the pure substances other than water, you are going to obtain similar type of curve. It is clear that saturation temperature increases with the saturation pressure. Thus, a substance at higher pressure boils at higher temperatures. In the kitchen, higher boiling temperatures means shorter cooking times and energy savings. That is what we are doing in pressure cookers. An eatable, for example, may take 1 to 2 hours to cook in a regular pan that operates at 1 atmospheric pressure, but only 20 minutes in a pressure cooker operating at 3 atmospheric absolute pressure. So at 3 atmospheric pressure, the corresponding boiling temperature go up to 134 degrees Celsius. 134 degree Celsius. Definitely it is going to reduce the cooking time. The atmospheric pressure and thus boiling temperature of water decreases with elevation. Therefore, it takes it longer to cook at higher altitudes than it does at sea level. So here we are going to study the variation of properties during phase change process with the help of property diagram, that is TV diagram, PV diagram and PT diagram for pure substance. So previously we have described that how the phase change is taking place for a pure substance, that is water, when it is kept at 1 atmospheric pressure during the heating process, and the initial temperature was 20 degrees Celsius. Now what we are doing, we are increasing the pressure, means instead of 1 atmospheric pressure we are maintaining the pressure inside the cylinder to be 1 megapascal, that is 10 bar. So at this pressure water has somewhat a smaller specific volume than it does have at 1 atmospheric pressure. That is why you can see that these curves are moving towards leftward, means the specific volume of compressed liquid is decreasing with the increase in pressure. As heat is transferred to the water at this new pressure, that is 10 bar, or you can say 1 megapascal, the process follows a path that looks very much like the process path at 1 atmosphere pressure. So the shape of the characteristic curve is remaining same, whether the pressure was 1 atmospheric pressure or the pressure is say 10 bar, that is 1 megapascal. There is no change in the shape of the characteristic curve, it is remaining the same. Only the saturation temperature is increasing with the increase in pressure. So the noticeable differences that are evident with the increase in pressure are: water is boiling at much higher temperature. For example, in the case of 10 bar, that is 1 megapascal, now water is boiling at 179.9 degrees Celsius. Second, the specific volume of saturated liquid is larger and the specific volume of saturated vapor is smaller than the corresponding values at 1 atmospheric pressure. So the state of saturated liquid is shifting towards rightward as the pressure is increasing, whereas the state of saturated vapor is shifting towards left. So you can say the lines joining the saturated liquid and saturated vapor are shrinking. When the pressure reaches 22.06 megapascal for water, then we obtain a point which is known as critical point, and critical point is defined as the point at which saturated liquid and saturated vapor states are identical. So the temperature, pressure and specific volume of a substance at critical point are called the critical temperature, critical pressure and critical specific volume. The critical point properties of water are: critical pressure is having the value of 22.06 megapascal, critical temperature is 373.95 degrees Celsius, and specific volume at critical point is equal to 0.003106 meter cube per kg. At pressures above the critical pressure, there is no distinct phase change process. Instead, the specific volume of the substance continually increases, and at all times there is only one phase present. Eventually it resembles a vapor, but we can never tell when the change has occurred. Above the critical state, there is no line that separates the compressed liquid region and the superheated vapor region. The saturated liquid states can be connected by a line, saturated liquid line, and the saturated vapor states in the same figure can be connected by another line called saturated vapor line. These two lines meet at critical point, forming a dome. Okay, so you can see saturated liquid line and saturated vapor line, they both are meeting at a point which is known as critical point, and it is forming the shape of a dome. जैसा कि टेम्पल्स में और मॉस्क में होता है, जिसे हम गुम्बद बोलते हैं. सो इट इज हैविंग द शेप ऑफ ए डोम. सो दिस इज ऑल्सो sometimes referred as vapor dome. All the compressed liquid states are located in the region to the left of saturated liquid line called compressed liquid region. All the superheated vapor states are located to the right of saturated vapor line called the superheated vapor region. So in these two regions, that is compressed liquid region and the superheated vapor region, the substance exists in a single phase, a liquid or a vapor. Okay, whereas in the case of dome, means under the dome, the substance exists as a mixture. It involves both the phases, liquid phase as well as vapor phase, in equilibrium. Okay, so this is sometimes also called as wet region, as it is having mixture of saturated liquid and saturated vapor. The general shape of the PV diagram of pure substance is very much like the TV diagram, but the isothermal line, that is constant temperature line, on this diagram have a downward trend. So again we are having the same system, that is piston cylinder device, that is containing liquid water at 1 megapascal and 150 degrees Celsius. Water at this state exists as a compressed liquid. Now the weight on the top of the piston are removed one by one, so that the pressure inside the cylinder is decreasing gradually. Means we are decreasing the pressure inside the cylinder. The water is allowed to exchange heat with the surroundings, so its temperature remains constant. As the pressure decreases, the volume of the water increases slightly. When the pressure reaches the saturation pressure value at the specified temperature, that is 0.4762 megapascal, the water starts to boil. During this vaporization process, both the temperature and pressure remain constant, but the specific volume increases. Once the last drop of liquid is vaporized, further reduction in the pressure results in a further increase in the specific volume. Note that during the phase change process, we haven't removed any weights, means the pressure was maintained to be constant. Doing so would cause the pressure and therefore the temperature to drop, and the process would no longer be isothermal. When the process is remitted for other temperatures, similar paths are obtained for the phase change processes. Connecting the saturated liquid and saturated vapor states by a curve, we obtain PV diagram for a pure substance. The two equilibrium diagrams developed so far represent the equilibrium states involving the liquid and vapor phase only. अब तक जितने भी equilibrium diagrams हमने शो किए हैं, तो हमने उनमें शो किया है केवल दो ही फेज, लिक्विड और वेपर फेज. However, these diagrams can easily be extended to include the solid phase as well as the solid liquid and solid vapor saturation regions. हाँ, इन डायग्राम्स को हम एक्सटेंड करके उसमें हम सॉलिड फेज को इंक्लूड करके हम सॉलिड लिक्विड और साथ ही साथ सॉलिड वेपर सैचुरेशन रीजन्स को भी स्टडी कर सकते हैं. The basic principles discussed in conjunction with liquid vapor phase change process apply equally to the solid liquid and solid vapor phase change processes. Many of the substances contract during solidification process, that is freezing process, whereas the others like water, they expand on freezing. So the PV diagram for both groups are shown over here. On the left one we are having PV diagram of a substance that contracts on freezing. On the right we are having the PV diagram of a substance that expands on freezing. So these two diagrams look similar, they only differ in the solid liquid saturation region. We are very familiar with the two phase or two phases being in equilibrium. But under some conditions, all the three phases of pure substance coexist in equilibrium. On PV and TV diagram, these triple phase states form a line which is called triple line. The states on the triple line of a substance have the same pressure and temperature but different specific volumes. The triple line appears as a point on the PT diagram and therefore is often called triple point. Okay, if we talk about the triple point of water, then the triple point of water is 273.16 Kelvin, and the triple point pressure of water is 0.61 kilopascal. Okay, so the triple point temperature is 273.16 and the triple point pressure is 0.61 kilopascal. All three phases of water coexist in equilibrium only if the temperature and pressure have precisely these values. No substance can exist in the liquid phase in a stable equilibrium at pressure below the triple point pressure. The same can be said for the temperature for substance that contracts on freezing. However, the substances at high pressure can exist in the liquid phase at temperatures below the triple point temperatures. For example, water cannot exist in liquid form in equilibrium at atmospheric pressure at temperatures below 0 degrees Celsius, but it can exist as a liquid at minus 20 degrees Celsius at 200 megapascal pressure. Also, ice exists at 7 different solid phases at pressures above 100 megapascal. Now, there are two ways a substance can pass from solid to vapor phase. Either it melts first into a liquid and subsequently evaporates, or it evaporates directly without melting first. The latter occurs at the pressure below the triple point value. Okay. Since a pure substance cannot exist in the liquid phase at those pressures. Passing from the solid phase directly into the vapor phase is called sublimation. For substances that have a triple point pressure above the atmospheric pressure, such as solid CO2, that is dry ice, sublimation is the only way to change from the solid to vapor phase at atmospheric conditions. This is PT diagram of a pure substance. This diagram is often called phase diagram as all the three phases are separated from each other by three lines. The sublimation line is separated from the solid and vapor regions. The vaporization line separates the liquid and vapor regions, and the melting or fusion line separates the solid and liquid regions. These three lines meet at the triple point, where all the three phases coexist in equilibrium. The vaporization line ends at the critical point because no distinction can be made between liquid and vapor phase above the critical point. Substances that expand and contract on freezing differ only in the melting line on the PT diagram. As you all know that the state of a simple compressible substance can be fixed by any two independent intensive properties. Okay, just say in the case of vapor dome, we take dryness fraction with pressure, or with temperature we can take dryness fraction, or with pressure we can take any other property like specific volume or specific entropy. But mind it, for the mixture region, that is inside the vapor dome region, we cannot take temperature with pressure because they are dependent properties. So I think the meaning of dependent properties must have been clear till now. Okay, pressure and temperature are independent properties outside the vapor dome. be it compressed liquid zone, be it superheated vapor zone. So once the two appropriate properties are fixed, all the other properties become dependent properties. Means other properties you can derive with the help of expressions or equations that you can derive. Any equation with two independent variables represent a surface in a space. We can represent the PVT behavior of a substance as surface in space, as we are showing over here. Here temperature and volume may be viewed as the independent variable, the base, and P as the dependent variable, that is height. All the points on the surface represents equilibrium states. All states along the path of a quasi-equilibrium process lie on the PVT surface, since such a process must pass through equilibrium states. The single phase regions appear as curved surface on the PVT surface, and the two phase regions as surface perpendicular to the PT plane. This is expected since the projection of two phase regions on the PT planes are nothing but lines. All the two-dimensional diagrams that we have shown you till now are merely projections of this three-dimensional surfaces onto the appropriate planes. A PV diagram is just a projection of PVT surface on PV plane, and a TV diagram again nothing more than a bird's eye view of the surface. The PVT surface presents a great deal of information at once, but in a thermodynamic analysis it is more convenient to work with two-dimensional diagrams such as PV diagram, TV diagram. We cannot work with PVT surface for the numerical problems in practical life. What we have to do? We have to go for two-dimensional diagrams or two-dimensional figures, be it PV diagram, be it TV diagram, be it TS diagram, or any other diagram. Now we'll discuss steam tables and Mollet diagrams. Steam tables are nothing but they are property tables for the pure substance, that is steam. Okay. Whereas Mollet diagram is nothing but the graphical representation of all these properties on HS diagram. On the x-axis we are having specific entropy as the property, and on y-axis we are having specific enthalpy as the property. So Mollet diagram is nothing but HS diagram on which different curves are shown, like constant pressure curves are there, constant volume curves are there, constant temperature, that is isothermal curves are there. So all these curves have been plotted, and we can derive the value of any property required with the help of Mollet diagrams, that is HS diagram. If we want to find out, say if the state is fixed for a substance, with the help of the properties like say if it is wet, then we are specifying for example pressure and dryness fraction, and if it is superheated we will fix up the state with the help of pressure and temperature. So we fix up the state, then from the help of Mollet diagram we can find out the value of enthalpy at that particular state, entropy at that particular state, and rest of the things, like if we want to find out internal energy, or if we find out the density at that particular point, then we can use the suitable formula and we can find out the value of those properties. So for most substances, steam, the relationship among thermodynamic properties are too complex to be expressed by simple equation. Therefore properties are frequently presented in the form of tables. So it's not like we are having property tables or the equivalent diagrams, means their graphical presentation diagrams only for steam. We are having these things for refrigerants, means other substances also, be it refrigerant, be other gases, or be it air. Okay, refrigerants you will be encountered with in your 6th sem when you will study refrigeration and air conditioning subject, and other property tables for used for other substances that you will also encounter during various other subjects. Okay, so some thermodynamic properties can be measured easily, but others cannot and are calculated by using the relations between them and measurable properties. Okay, so example, we have shown you here the relation between enthalpy and internal energy. So H is equal to U plus PV. So the value of enthalpy is given on the molar diagram as well as property tables. But if you wish to find out the value of internal energy, then you will have to use this property relation. Okay. Now, whether it is steam or any other substance, the thermodynamic properties are listed in more than one table. Okay. Separate table is there for, say, superheated vapor, separate table is there for compressed liquid, and separate table is there for saturated, or you can say mixture regions, in which we are having mixture of saturated liquid and saturated vapor. And one thing more, we are having two types of tables for saturated steam regions, that is mixture regions, that we will discuss in subsequent slide. So for saturated liquid and vapor states, we have property tables in two formats, pressure based table and temperature based table. Okay, you purchase any steam table, okay, there you will find out two types of tables for the saturated liquid and vapor states, pressure based table and temperature based table. For superheated steam, we are having only one type of table, but for the saturated liquid and vapor steam, we are having two types of tables, that is pressure based table and temperature based table. Both tables are giving the same information. The difference lies in that temperature based table, the properties are listed under temperature, and in pressure based table under pressure. Therefore, it is more convenient to use temperature based table when temperature is given to you in the numerical problem, and pressure based table when pressure is being given to you in the numerical problem. The subscript F, you can see here in the table, VF, UF, HF, SF. So basically this subscript F is used to denote properties of saturated liquid, and the subscript G is used to denote the properties of saturated vapor. These symbols are commonly used in thermodynamics. Okay. The subscript FG, though not shown over here, the subscript FG denotes the difference between the saturated vapor and saturated liquid values of the same property. For example, HFG, which is nothing but the difference of Hg and Hf, that is HFG is equal to Hg minus Hf, and this quantity is called the enthalpy of vaporization, or you can say the latent heat of vaporization. So what is enthalpy of vaporization? How do you define that? It represents the amount of energy needed to vaporize a unit mass of saturated liquid at a given temperature or pressure. It decreases as the temperature or pressure increases and becomes zero at critical point. Okay. Remember, it becomes zero at critical point. During a vaporization process, a substance exists as part liquid and part vapor. Means we are having the mixture of saturated liquid and saturated vapor. ठीक है, अगर हमारे पास में कोई सब्सटेंस है और उस दौरान वेपोराइजेशन हो रहा है, तो ये तय मानकर चलिए कि हमारे पास में मिक्सचर है सैचुरेटेड लिक्विड का और सैचुरेटेड वेपर का. ठीक है. Now if we wish to analyze this mixture properly, then it is required that we should know what proportions of liquid and vapor phase are present in the mixture, and this is done with the help of a new property called quality, which is represented by X. Okay. and this is nothing but it is the ratio of mass of vapor to the total mass of the mixture. ठीक है, अगर हम वॉल्यूम की टर्म्स में बात करें तो टोटल वॉल्यूम ऑफ द मिक्सचर इज इक्वल टू वॉल्यूम ऑफ द लिक्विड प्लस वॉल्यूम ऑफ द वेपर पार्ट. Similar thing applies for the mass also. Total mass of the mixture is equal to mass of liquid plus mass of vapor. Okay, that is equal to mf plus mg. अब उस टोटल मास में से कितना मास जो है वेपर पार्ट का है वो कहलाता है ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन. ओके, क्योंकि हम जानते हैं कि लिक्विड और वेपर में से वेपर रिलेटिवली ड्राई होती है, इसलिए जो मिक्सचर का मास है उसमें से कितना मास वेपर का है तो वो कहलाएगा ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन. ओके, नाउ वन थिंग मोर, दिस टर्म क्वालिटी एंड इट इज ऑल्सो नोन एज ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन. इसको ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन भी बोलते हैं और क्वालिटी भी बोलते हैं. क्वालिटी जब हम बोलते हैं तब हम इसको परसेंटेज में एक्सप्रेस करते हैं, जब हम इसको ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन बोलते हैं तब हम इसको केवल फ्रैक्शन में रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. यानी x की वैल्यू रहेगी 0 to 1 तो हम इसको बोलेंगे ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन. ठीक है, और x की वैल्यू 0 to 100% रहेगी तब हम इसको बोलेंगे क्वालिटी. तो एक ही प्रॉपर्टी के दो नाम हैं. Quality has significance for saturated mixture only. It has no meaning in the compressed liquid or superheated vapor zones. इस क्वालिटी वर्ड का या ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन का कंप्रेस्ड लिक्विड रीजन्स में और सुपरहीटेड वेपर रीजन्स में कोई मतलब नहीं होता है, कोई अर्थ नहीं होता है. दे आर नॉट एट ऑल डिफाइंड इन कंप्रेस्ड लिक्विड जोन और सुपरहीटेड वेपर जोन. ओके, its value is between 0 and 1 as I have told you. Okay, when it is called dryness fraction, and 0 to 100% when it is called quality. The quality of steam or dryness fraction of the steam that consists of saturated liquid is 0. मतलब saturated liquid की dryness fraction होगी 0 and saturated vapor की dryness fraction होगी 1. Okay. In the saturated mixture, quality can serve as one of the independent intensive properties needed to describe a state. और इस मिक्सचर जोन में, सैचुरेटेड मिक्सचर्स में यूजुअली हम एक प्रॉपर्टी इसी को लेते हैं, ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन को ही, क्वालिटी को ही हम लेते हैं. तो हम नॉर्मली क्या, प्रेशर के साथ में हम क्वालिटी को ही एक प्रॉपर्टी बनाते हैं टू फिक्स अप द स्टेट. जैसे मान लीजिए प्रेशर है 10 बार और ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन है 0.8, तो ये दोनों प्रॉपर्टी सफिशिएंट हैं टू डिफाइन द स्टेट. The properties of saturated liquid are the same when it exists alone or in a mixture with saturated vapor. During the vaporization process, only the amounts of saturated liquid changes, not its properties. Okay? तो बेसिकली क्या होता है, जैसे वेपोराइजेशन हो रहा है तो सैचुरेटेड लिक्विड का अमाउंट जरूर बदल सकता है, उसकी प्रॉपर्टीज नहीं बदलती. और ऐसी ही चीज हम सैचुरेटेड वेपर के लिए कहना चाहेंगे कि मान लीजिए वेपोराइजेशन हो रहा है तो उस मिक्सचर में सैचुरेटेड वेपर की क्वांटिटी या अमाउंट बढ़ रही है. सैचुरेटेड वेपर की क्वांटिटी अमाउंट बढ़ी है वेपोराइजेशन जैसे जैसे आगे प्रोसीड हो रहा है, लेकिन सैचुरेटेड वेपर की प्रॉपर्टीज नहीं बदलती. ओके, सो ए सैचुरेटेड मिक्सचर कैन बी ट्रीटेड एज कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ टू सबसिस्टम्स, द सैचुरेटेड लिक्विड एंड सैचुरेटेड वेपर. ठीक है, कहने का मतलब है कि जो सैचुरेटेड मिक्सचर है वो किससे बना है, वो दो ही चीजों से बना है, सैचुरेटेड लिक्विड से और सैचुरेटेड वेपर से. ठीक है, इसका एक एंड ये हो गया कि जब लिक्विड सैचुरेटेड लिक्विड है तो ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन 0 है, जब वो सैचुरेटेड वेपर है तो वो ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन उसका 1 हो गया. ठीक है, now we consider a tank that contains a saturated liquid vapor mixture. The volume occupied by the saturated liquid is say Vf and the volume occupied by the saturated vapor is Vg. So the total volume, as I told you just now, total volume is sum of the two. V is equal to Vf plus Vg. Okay, and as you know that volume is equal to mass into specific volume, so you can write the above expression in this way: total mass into specific volume of the mixture, and that is equal to mf Vf plus mg Vg. where mf is mass of the saturated liquid, mg is mass of saturated vapor, vf is specific volume of saturated liquid, and vg is specific volume of saturated vapor. Okay, now we simplify this. Okay, and as you know that total mass is equal to mf plus mg, so using all these expressions shown on the previous slides and shown on this slide, we get the final expression as this: x is equal to v minus vf upon vg minus vf. Okay, and also for specific volume we are having this expression that v is equal to 1 minus x into vf plus xvg, which can also be written by simplifying the terms as vf plus x into vg minus vf. Okay, so this expression we have obtained. Now this analysis can be repeated for internal energy and enthalpy. जो हमने स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम के लिए एनालिसिस किया है, वही एनालिसिस हम इंटरनल एनर्जी और एंथैल्पी के लिए करके हमें वैसा ही एक्सप्रेशन मिलेगा जैसा स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम के लिए मिला. उसको सिंप्लीफाई करके हमने लिख दिया H इज इक्वल टू एच एफ प्लस एक्स एच एफ जी, क्योंकि आपको पता है एच एफ जी का मतलब क्या है, एच जी माइनस एच एफ. और ऐसा ही एक्सप्रेशन आपके पास में आ गया किसके लिए, इंटरनल एनर्जी के लिए, यू एफ प्लस एक्स इंटू यू एफ जी. और आपको पता है यू एफ जी का मतलब है यू जी माइनस यू एफ. ठीक है, बहुत सारी स्टीम टेबल्स में U की वैल्यूज गिवन नहीं होती है, तो आप क्या करेंगे, आप उसको H इज इक्वल टू यू प्लस पीवी से सॉल्व करेंगे, यानी कि U इज इक्वल टू एच माइनस पीवी से आपका इंटरनल एनर्जी की वैल्यू आ जाएगी. ठीक है, लेकिन आपको एक चीज ध्यान रखनी है कि उसमें प्रेशर आपको किलो पास्कल में रखना है. जब भी आप H इज इक्वल टू यू प्लस पीवी आप यूज कर रहे हैं तो आप प्रेशर को किलो पास्कल में रखेंगे. ठीक है, क्योंकि प्रेशर होगा किलो पास्कल यानी किलो न्यूटन पर मीटर स्क्वायर में, स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम होगा आपका मीटर क्यूब पर केजी में, तो पीवी का प्रोडक्ट आपका हो जाएगा किसमें, किलो जूल पर केजी में. और यहां पर आपका इंटरनल एनर्जी भी किलो जूल पर केजी में होगा और एंथैल्पी भी किलो जूल पर केजी में होगा. ओके, तो अभी आपने देखा कि लगभग सभी प्रॉपर्टीज के रिजल्ट्स जो हैं आपको इस फॉर्मेट में मिल रहे हैं, जिसको इस तरीके से समराइज किया जा सकता है एक इक्वेशन में, y इज इक्वल टू वाई एफ प्लस एक्स इंटू वाई एफ जी. ओके, और आपको पता है कि द वैल्यूज ऑफ एवरेज प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ द मिक्सचर आर लाइंग बिटवीन द वैल्यू दैट इज वाई एफ एंड वाई. एक चीज जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है और जो केवल स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम के लिए एप्लीकेबल है, कुछ भी रिप्रेजेंट कर सकता है, बी को, यू को, रिपीटिंग द सेंटेंस दैट दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग इज एप्लीकेबल ओनली फॉर स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम. ओके, एट लो प्रेशर्स Vf इज वेरी वेरी लेस एज कंपेयर टू Vg. तो हम क्या करते हैं, हमने जो ऊपर एक्सप्रेशन दिया हुआ है, हम देखते हैं यहां पर कि चूंकि Vf काफी कम है Vg के मुकाबले, तो जो फर्स्ट टर्म है, फर्स्ट टर्म का मतलब 1 माइनस एक्स इंटू वी एफ, दैट इज वेरी स्मॉल एज कंपेयर टू द सेकेंड टर्म. जो सेकेंड टर्म है एक्स वीजी, उसके मुकाबले काफी कम हो जाती है. तो हम क्या करते हैं, फर्स्ट टर्म को नेग्लेक्ट कर देते हैं और हमारा एक्सप्रेशन बन जाता है V इज अप्रोक्सीमेटली इक्वल्स टू एक्स वीजी. बट माइंडेड, दिस इज एप्लीकेबल ओनली फॉर स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम, not for any other property. It's not applicable for H, that is specific enthalpy. It is not applicable for U, that is specific internal energy. It is not applicable for S, specific entropy. क्योंकि इन सभी की वैल्यू, इन सभी के केसेस में, ठीक है ना, HF की वैल्यू भी सिग्निफिकेंट होती है, UF की वैल्यू भी सिग्निफिकेंट होती है और SF की वैल्यू भी सिग्निफिकेंट होती है एज कंपेयर टू देयर सैचुरेटेड वेपर कंपोनेंट्स. तो वहां पर ये चीज लागू नहीं होगी, वहां पर आप पूरा ही फॉर्मूला यूज करोगे. ठीक है ना, 1 माइनस एक्स इंटू एच एफ प्लस एक्स इंटू एच जी. तो बेसिकली आपको वही वाला फॉर्मूला मिल जाएगा, एच एफ प्लस एक्स एच एफ जी. या इसी तरह सेम पैटर्न पर एंट्रोपी के लिए और इंटरनल एनर्जी के लिए। ओके, अब यहां पर एक बात आती है कि लो प्रेशर हम किसको माने, तो 20 बार तक जो है स्टीम के प्रेशर को आप लो प्रेशर मान सकते हो। ओके, तो ये देखिए इस तरीके से सुपरहीटेड स्टीम के लिए प्रॉपर्टीज अवेलेबल होती है आपके स्टीम टेबल्स में। ठीक है, तो किसी भी प्रेशर पर, चूंकि आपको पता है कि अब सुपरहीटेड जोन में टेम्परेचर जो है इंडिपेंडेंट प्रॉपर्टी हो गई है, प्रेशर और टेम्परेचर इंडिपेंडेंट प्रॉपर्टीज हो गई है, तो हर एक प्रेशर पर कई सारे टेम्परेचर्स अवेलेबल है, बट ये टेम्परेचर्स एग्जिस्ट कब करते हैं, या ये टेम्परेचर कौन से माने जाएंगे, हायर देन इट्स सैचुरेशन टेम्परेचर। ठीक है, 5 बार पर जो भी सैचुरेशन टेम्परेचर होगा उससे ज्यादा टेम्परेचर होगा तभी स्टीम सुपरहीटेड होगी। ठीक है, तो 5 बार पर 160 डिग्री, 200 डिग्री, 240 डिग्री, 280 डिग्री एंड सो ऑन, उस पर V, U, H और S की वैल्यूज गिवन है। सिमिलर थिंग है फॉर 7 बार के लिए। अब 7 बार के लिए इसने 160 पर क्यों नहीं दी वैल्यूज, क्योंकि डेफिनेटली 7 बार पर जो सैचुरेशन टेम्परेचर होगा वो 160 से ज्यादा होगा, इसलिए 160 पर वो स्टीम सुपरहीटेड नहीं कहलाएगी और इसने यहां पर उनकी वैल्यूज नहीं दी है। हाँ, लेकिन 200 पर दी है, इसका मतलब 7 बार पर जो स्टीम है उसका सैचुरेशन टेम्परेचर 160 से तो ऊपर है पर 200 से नीचे है। ठीक है, तभी तो 200 पर स्टीम सुपरहीटेड हो गई और उसकी V, U, H, S की वैल्यूज गिवन है। ठीक है, तो यहां से आपको रीड कर लेनी है। ठीक है, अगर कभी मान लीजिए आपको जो है 180 पर वैल्यू पूछी जाए, 160 पर गिवन है, ये 200 पर गिवन है, आपको 170 पर पूछी जाए, 180 पर पूछी जाए, या और भी किसी वैल्यू पर पूछी जाए जो इन इंटरवल्स के बीच में लाई करती है, तो यू विल हैव टू गो फॉर इंटरपोलेशन, आपको इंटरपोलेशन करना पड़ेगा। ठीक है, जब मैं न्यूमेरिकल वाला लेक्चर लूंगा तब आपको मैं एक्सप्लेन कर दूंगा कि किस तरीके से इंटरपोलेशन करते हैं। ठीक है, इंटरपोलेशन में बेसिकली ये अज्यूम किया जाता है कि जिस फैशन में ये वैल्यूज इन दोनों वैल्यूज के लिए वेरी कर रही है, उसी फैशन में इनके बीच की वैल्यू के लिए भी वेरी करेगी, दैट इज इंटरपोलेशन। ओके, see, compressed liquid tables are not as commonly available. One reason for the lack of compressed liquid data is the relative independence of the compressed liquid properties from pressure. Okay, variation of the properties of compressed liquid with the pressure is very mild. Increasing the pressure 100 times often causes the properties to change even less than 1%. Okay, so in the absence of compressed liquid data, a general approximation is to treat compressed liquid as saturated liquid at given temperature. हम क्या करते हैं, जब डाटा अवेलेबल नहीं होता है तो हम compressed liquid को saturated liquid मानकर किसी given temperature पर हम उसकी values calculate कर लेते हैं. This is because the compressed liquid properties depend on the temperature much more strongly than they do on pressure. और हम temperature पर ही क्यों लेते हैं वो डाटा, क्योंकि हम जानते हैं कि compressed liquid की properties ज्यादा डिपेंड करती है टेम्परेचर पर बजाय कि प्रेशर के। तो इस तरीके से हम जो है, जैसे हमको चाहिए एंथैल्पी की वैल्यू, तो व्हाट वी डू, जो हमारा सैचुरेटेड लिक्विड वाला पॉइंट है उस टेम्परेचर पर, मान लीजिए 40 डिग्री सेल्सियस, तो उस पर हमने HF की वैल्यू देख ली, प्लस VF जो है उसको हमने मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया द चेंज इन प्रेशर से, दैट इज P माइनस P सैचुरेशन से, तो हमारे पास में उस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट के लिए एंथैल्पी की वैल्यू आ गई। नाउ हाउ टू कैरेक्टराइज द कंप्रेस्ड लिक्विड इफ द प्रेशर इज हाई एट गिवन टेम्परेचर, अगर प्रेशर हाई है तो गिवन टेम्परेचर पर, या टेम्परेचर लोअर है गिवन प्रेशर पर, तो इसका मतलब इट इज कंप्रेस्ड लिक्विड। या फिर V, U और H कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंगली VF यूएफ और एचएफ से कम होंगे, यानी वी जो है वीएफ से कम होगा किसी गिवन प्रेशर या टेम्परेचर पर, यू जो है यूएफ से कम होगा किसी गिवन प्रेशर या टेम्परेचर पर, या एच कम होगा एचएफ से किसी गिवन प्रेशर या टेम्परेचर पर, तो हम कहेंगे कि ये कंप्रेस्ड लिक्विड है। ओके, सो दिस इज मॉलियर डायग्राम। इट हैज बीन नेम्ड आफ्टर इट्स फाउंडर मॉलियर। ठीक है, इसको हम एचएस डायग्राम भी बोलते हैं, और यहाँ पर प्रॉपर्टीज जो हैं ग्राफिकल फॉर्म में गिवन है। ठीक है, एक्स एक्सिस पर देखिए आप एंट्रोपी है, स्पेसिफिक एंट्रोपी, ठीक है ना, किलोजूल पर केजी पर केल्विन में। ओके, वाई एक्सिस पर इसके स्पेसिफिक एंथैल्पी दी हुई है किलोजूल पर केजी में। ठीक है, नाउ ये पूरा मॉलियर डायग्राम यहां पर शो नहीं किया गया है, उसको स्मॉलर वर्जन है। ठीक है, अब कांस्टेंट इसमें जो रेड लाइन आपको दिखाई गई है, ठीक है, जो थिक वाली रेड कर्व है या रेड लाइन है, दैट इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग सैचुरेटेड वेपर लाइन। ठीक है, सैचुरेटेड वेपर लाइन है, यानी कि यहां पर ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन 1 है और लिखा हुआ भी है x इक्वल्स टू 1। ठीक है, सो दिस इज सैचुरेशन लाइन और सैचुरेटेड वेपर लाइन। ठीक है, उसके नीचे सिमिलर टाइप ऑफ कर्व्स गिवन है 0.95 ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन के लिए, 0.9 के लिए, 0.85 के लिए, 0.8 के लिए, 0.75 के लिए, 0.7 के लिए और 0.65 के लिए। जो रियल के आपके पेपर पे आपको जो मॉलियर डायग्राम्स मिलेंगे, जो आप मार्केट से परचेज करेंगे या कॉलेज की मॉलियर डायग्राम स्ट्रीम टेबल से मिलेंगे, वहाँ पर आपको ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन कर्व्स मिल जाएंगे 0.99 के लिए, 0.98 के लिए, 0.97 के लिए, यानी कि 0.01 के इंटरवल पर आपको ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन के कर्व्स मिल जाएंगे, अप टू 0.7 तक के मिल जाएंगे, है ना। ठीक है, तो ये हो गए ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन कर्व्स। ठीक है, इसके ऊपर का रीजन यानी ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन 1 से ऊपर का रीजन जो है वो सुपरहीटेड रीजन है, और ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन 1 से लेकर उसके नीचे तक का, ड्राइनेस फ्रैक्शन 1 से नीचे तक का जो रीजन है वो वेट रीजन है, सैचुरेटेड स्टीम रीजन है, मिक्सचर रीजन है। ओके, अब यहां पर देखिए आप डिफरेंट प्रेशर लाइंस इंक्लाइन लाइन के फॉर्म में शो की गई है। 0.01 बार आप राइट बॉटम कॉर्नर में देखेंगे, 0.01 बार का कांस्टेंट प्रेशर कर्व से लेकर ऊपर आप देखेंगे 500 बार तक के कांस्टेंट प्रेशर कर्व्स हैं। ठीक है, मतलब 0.01 बार है, फिर 0.02, 0.03, 0.05, 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, 1, 2, 4, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, 500 बार, और उनके बीच में भी दे रखे हैं जिनकी वैल्यूज नहीं लिखी हुई है। ओके, तो इस तरीके से कांस्टेंट प्रेशर कर्व्स जो कुछ एंगल बनाए हुए हैं एक्स एक्सिस के साथ में वो शो किए गए हैं। ठीक है, इसी तरीके से आपको यहां पर कांस्टेंट टेम्परेचर कर्व्स भी शो किए गए हैं। ठीक है, ग्रीन से शो किए गए हैं भाई, कांस्टेंट प्रेशर कर्व्स तो आपको ब्लू लाइन से शो किए गए हैं। ठीक है ना, स्काई ब्लू कलर से शो किए गए हैं, और जो आइसोथर्मल या कांस्टेंट टेम्परेचर कर्व्स हैं वो आपको ग्रीन कर्व से शो किए गए हैं, और टेम्परेचर्स भी लिखे हुए हैं। देखिए मिक्सचर जोन में तो क्या होगा, जो कांस्टेंट टेम्परेचर कर्व्स हैं और कांस्टेंट प्रेशर कर्व्स हैं वो दोनों कोइंसाइड करेंगे या पैरेलल होंगे। ठीक है, बिकॉज टेम्परेचर एंड प्रेशर आर डिपेंडेंट प्रॉपर्टीज इनसाइड द वेट रीजन और मिक्सचर रीजन। ठीक है, तो वो तो या तो कांस्टेंट प्रेशर कर्व्स और कांस्टेंट टेम्परेचर कर्व्स जो हैं या तो कोइंसाइड करेंगे या यूं कह दीजिए कि वो पैरेलल होंगे, बट आउटसाइड द मिक्सचर रीजन दैट इज इन द सुपरहीटेड जोन वो दोनों डाइवर्ज कर जाएंगे, दोनों अलग अलग हो जाएंगे, दोनों सेपरेट हो जाएंगे। ठीक है, क्योंकि सुपरहीटेड जोन में प्रेशर और टेम्परेचर जो हैं वो इंडिपेंडेंट प्रॉपर्टीज हैं। ठीक है, तो ये ग्रीन कर्व्स से या ग्रीन लाइन से शो किए गए हैं कांस्टेंट टेम्परेचर कर्व्स। ठीक है, 300 डिग्री, 150 डिग्री, 200 डिग्री एंड सो ऑन। ओके, कांस्टेंट वॉल्यूम कर्व्स इसमें शो नहीं किए गए हैं। कांस्टेंट वॉल्यूम कर्व्स भी कांस्टेंट प्रेशर कर्व की तरह ही होंगे, उसी तरह का इंक्लिनेशन बनाए हुए होंगे एक्स एक्सिस के साथ में, बस फर्क ये होगा कांस्टेंट वॉल्यूम कर्व्स या यूं कह दीजिए कांस्टेंट स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम कर्व्स का स्लोप कांस्टेंट प्रेशर कर्व के मुकाबले में ज्यादा होगा, और कांस्टेंट स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम कर्व्स डैश लाइन के फॉर्म में शो किया जाता है, सॉलिड लाइन के फॉर्म में नहीं किया जाता। ठीक है, कांस्टेंट वॉल्यूम कर्व्स हमेशा, चाहे आपका ये मॉले डायग्राम हो, चाहे आपका रेफ्रिजरेंट चार्ट हो, चाहे आपका साइक्रोमेट्रिक चार्ट हो, कांस्टेंट स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम कर्व्स को हमेशा डैश लाइन के फॉर्म में शो किया जाता है। ओके, सो दिस मॉले डायग्राम कैन बी यूज्ड टू कैलकुलेट द वेरियस प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ स्टीम। ओके, नाउ वी टॉक अबाउट द आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन ऑफ स्टेट। ठीक है, तो एक तो हमारा जो वर्किंग सब्सटेंस था वो हो गया स्टीम। ठीक है, और दूसरा जो है हमारा वर्किंग सब्सटेंस रहेगा एयर या कोई भी आइडियल गैस। ठीक है, दोनों में बहुत फर्क है। ठीक है, एयर जो है या जो गैसेस हैं आपकी, जैसे नाइट्रोजन हो गई, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, दे बिहेव लाइक एन आइडियल गैस, और आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन और गैस लॉज वहां पर एप्लीकेबल हैं। लेकिन ये चीजें, आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन और गैस लॉज, वो स्टीम के लिए एप्लीकेबल नहीं है, एक्सेप्ट ए वेरी फ्यू कंडीशंस, कि स्टीम सुपर हीटेड हो और पर्टिकुलर प्रेशर या टेम्परेचर हो। ठीक है, तभी उसके लिए एप्लीकेबल है, वो हम डिस्कस करेंगे किन सिचुएशंस में है, अदरवाइज वहां पर एप्लीकेबल नहीं है। ठीक है ना, वेट रीजन में तो आप कभी अप्लाई कर ही नहीं सकते गैस लॉ या आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन स्टीम के केस में। ठीक है, दैट इज अ sheer error, gross error. Okay, so any equation that relates the pressure, temperature and specific volume of a substance is called equation of state. ठीक है, कोई भी इक्वेशन जो प्रेशर, टेम्परेचर और स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम में रिलेशन बताता है किसी भी सब्सटेंस के लिए, उसको इक्वेशन ऑफ स्टेट कहते हैं। प्रॉपर्टी रिलेशन दैट इन्वॉल्व अदर प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ सब्सटेंस एट इक्विलिब्रियम स्टेट आर आल्सो रेफर्ड एज इक्वेशन ऑफ स्टेट। ठीक है, जो इक्विलिब्रियम स्टेट्स के बीच में, ठीक है, रिलेशन बताता है, ठीक है, उसको भी आप जो है इक्वेशन ऑफ स्टेट कहते हैं। तो बॉयल्स ने एक सिद्धांत दिया था, ठीक है ना, उसमें इसने बताया था दैट प्रेशर ऑफ गैसेस इज इनवर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल टू देयर वॉल्यूम। ठीक है, तो बॉयल्स लॉ आप पढ़ चुके हैं, P इज इनवर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल टू इट्स वॉल्यूम। इसी तरीके से चार्ल्स और गे लुसाक ने भी बताया था कि लो प्रेशर्स पर द वॉल्यूम ऑफ गैस इज प्रोपोर्शनल टू इट्स टेम्परेचर, P इज डायरेक्टली प्रोपोर्शनल टू T। ठीक है, तो उसके बेसिस पर हमने जो है ये कहा P V is equal to RT, where R is the constant of proportionality and is called gas constant, right? तो above equation is called the ideal gas equation or simply the ideal gas relation, and the gas that obeys this relation is called ideal gas. जो भी गैस इस इक्वेशन को फॉलो करेगी उसको हम कहेंगे आइडियल गैस। ठीक है, यहां पर P है एब्सोल्यूट प्रेशर, ठीक है, जिसको आप किसी भी यूनिट में लिख सकते हैं, बार में, किलो पास्कल में, पास्कल में। ठीक है, V जो है वो स्पेसिफिक वॉल्यूम होता है, जिसको मीटर क्यूब में, लीटर में लिखा जा सकता है। ठीक है, गैस कांस्टेंट जो है वो हर एक गैस के लिए अलग होता है। ठीक है ना, और किसी भी गैस के लिए आप R की वैल्यू कैसे निकालते हैं, RU अपॉन कैपिटल M, जहां पर कि RU क्या है, यूनिवर्सल गैस कांस्टेंट है, और कैपिटल M क्या है, मोलर मास है, मॉलिक्यूलर वेट है गैस का। ठीक है, तो RU की वैल्यू तो सभी सब्सटेंस के लिए सेम होगी, क्योंकि RU क्या है, यूनिवर्सल गैस कांस्टेंट, जिसकी वैल्यू होगी 8.314 किलो जूल पर किलो मोल पर केल्विन। ठीक है, दूसरी यूनिट्स में भी इस स्लाइड पर गिवन है वैल्यूज। ठीक है, अब मोलर मास जो होता है दैट इज सिंपली डिफाइंड एज द मास ऑफ 1 मोल। ठीक है, जिसको आप ग्राम मोल भी कह सकते हो, किलोग्राम मोल भी कह सकते हो। ठीक है ना, नाउ द मास ऑफ द सिस्टम इज इक्वल टू द प्रोडक्ट ऑफ इट्स मोलर मास एंड मोल नंबर। ये आप जानते हैं कि मास जो है मोलर मास और मोल नंबर ऑफ मोल से के मल्टीप्लीकेशन से आता है। ठीक है, तो आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन में जब हम इसको यूज करते हैं तो V इज इक्वल टू M इंटू स्मॉल v। ठीक है, तो इससे आपने लिखा PV इज इक्वल टू MRT। ठीक है, तो अब इससे क्या हुआ, एम आर इज इक्वल टू एम इंटू एन इंटू आर। ठीक है, अब ये क्या बन गया, आपका आर और एम जो है वो मल्टीप्लाई होकर बन गया आर यू। तो पीवी इज इक्वल टू एन आर यू टी, इस तरीके से भी लिख सकते हैं आप आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन को, और पीवी इज इक्वल टू एम आर टी, दोनों उस तरीके से भी लिख सकते हैं। पीवी इज इक्वल टू एम आर टी में आर होता है गैस कांस्टेंट, एंड पीवी इज इक्वल टू एन आर यू टी में होता है आर यू आपका है यूनिवर्सल गैस कांस्टेंट, और उसकी वैल्यू कांस्टेंट है 8.314 किलो जूल पर किलो मोल पर केल्विन। ठीक है, और वहां पर आपको मास गिवन है, पीवी इज इक्वल टू एम आर टी में एम क्या है, मास है, और पीवी इज इक्वल टू एन आर यू टी में क्या है, बेसिकली एन है आपका नंबर ऑफ मोल्स। ठीक है, फिक्स्ड मास के लिए आप आइडियल गैस की प्रॉपर्टीज के लिए दो स्टेट्स को किस तरीके से रिलेट करते हैं, आप इस तरीके से रिलेट करते हैं, P1V1 अपॉन T1 इज इक्वल टू P2V2 अपॉन T2। ठीक है, डिफरेंट गैसेस के लिए उनके मोलर मासेस भी गिवन है टेबल पर। ठीक है, और उनके पर्टिकुलर गैस कांस्टेंट भी गिवन है, कि जैसे एयर के लिए 28.97 जो है आपका मॉलिक्यूलर मास है। ठीक है ना, अब आर यू को यानी 8.3143 को जब 28.97 से डिवाइड करेंगे तो आपका एयर के लिए गैस कांस्टेंट आएगा 0.287 किलो जूल पर केजी पर केल्विन। ठीक है, सिमिलरली दूसरी गैसेस के लिए भी आप निकाल सकते हैं, क्योंकि बेसिकली एयर क्या है, एयर इज मिक्सचर ऑफ गैसेस। ओके, एयर के लिए मान लीजिए आपको न्यूमेरिकल प्रॉब्लम में कुछ भी नहीं गिवन है, तो आप ये वैल्यूज अज्यूम करेंगे, सीपी की वैल्यू 1.005 किलो जूल पर केजी पर केल्विन, सीवी की वैल्यू 0.718 किलो जूल पर केजी पर केल्विन, आर की वैल्यू 0.287 किलो जूल पर केजी पर केल्विन, और गामा की वैल्यू 1.4। इनमें से आप कोई भी दो वैल्यूज याद कर लीजिए, बाकी दो आप डेराइव कर सकते हैं। कैसे, क्योंकि आप जानते हैं सीपी माइनस सीवी इज इक्वल टू आर एंड सीपी अपॉन सीवी इज इक्वल टू गामा, ये आप जानते हैं। ठीक, एन आइडियल गैस इज ए इमेजिनरी सब्सटेंस दैट ओबेज दिस रिलेशन। ठीक है, आइडियल गैस एक इमेजिनरी सब्सटेंस है जो इस रिलेशन को ओबे करता है। इट हैज बीन एक्सपेरिमेंटली ऑब्जर्व्ड दैट आइडियल गैस रिलेशन given closely approximates the PVT behavior of real gases at low densities. Okay. At low pressures and high temperatures, the density of gases decreases and the gas behaves as an ideal gas under these conditions. In the range of practical interest, many familiar gases such as air, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, helium, argon, neon, krypton, and even heavier gases such as carbon dioxide can be treated as ideal gases with negligible error, often less than 1%. Dense gases such as water vapor in steam power plants and refrigerant vapors in refrigerators, however, should not be treated as ideal gases. Instead, the property table should be used for these substances. Is water vapor an ideal gas? क्या water vapor ideal gas होता है? ठीक है, तो यहाँ पर percentage of error शो कर रखा है। ठीक है, on TV diagram। ठीक है, और इसमें जो ये रीजन समवट पिंक कलर से हाईलाइट कर रखा है, शेड कर रखा है, बेसिकली वो रीजन बता रहा है जहां पर एरर 1% से कम है। यानी यहां पर आप वाटर वेपर को कह दीजिए या सुपरहीटेड स्टीम को कह दीजिए, इन रीजन में आप उसको आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन की तरह मान सकते हो, आइडियल गैस की तरह मान सकते हो। यानी यहां पर आप आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन या गैस लॉज अप्लाई कर सकते हो फॉर वाटर वेपर या स्टीम के लिए, यहां पर अप्लाई कर सकते हो आप। जो पिंक वाला पोर्शन शो कर रखा है उसमें, उसके अलावा नहीं। इट इज क्लियर फ्रॉम दिस फिगर दैट एट प्रेशर्स बिलो 10 kPa वाटर वेपर कैन बी ट्रीटेड एज आइडियल गैस रिगार्डलेस ऑफ इट्स टेम्परेचर विथ नेग्लिजिबल एरर। मतलब एरर वहां पर 0.1% से कम है। ठीक है, कहां पर, at pressure below 10 kPa. ठीक है, at higher pressures, however, the ideal gas assumption yields unacceptable errors, particularly in the vicinity of the critical point and the saturated vapor over 100%. ठीक है, तो इस रीजन में हायर प्रेशर्स में और किस में, पर्टिकुलरली क्रिटिकल पॉइंट के आसपास, वहां पर जो है आपको आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन अप्लाई नहीं करनी है वाटर वेपर के लिए, स्टीम के लिए. Therefore, in air conditioning application, the water vapor in the air can be treated as an ideal gas with essentially no error, since the pressure of the water vapor is very low. ठीक है. एयर कंडीशनिंग एपरेटस में, ये एयर कंडीशनिंग की हम जब डिजाइन करते हैं तो हम जो एयर में वाटर वेपर प्रेजेंट होता है, ठीक है, उसके लिए आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन अप्लाई कर देते हैं. क्यों कर पाते हैं? क्योंकि वहां पर वाटर वेपर का प्रेशर कम होता है, 10 किलो पास्कल के आसपास होता है, तो हम अप्लाई कर देते हैं, वहां एरर नहीं आती. लेकिन इन स्टीम पावर प्लांट एप्लीकेशन द प्रेशर इन्वॉल्व आर वेरी हाई. ठीक है, तो प्रेशर बहुत ज्यादा होते हैं, तो आइडियल गैस इक्वेशन अप्लाई नहीं कर सकते हैं. ओके, फॉर दिस लेक्चर वी विल कंटिन्यू आवर डिस्कशन pertaining to the concepts of thermodynamics in our subsequent lectures. Till then, bye.